and it is officially time to start. So welcome guys, welcome to Santa Cruz de Santiago de Tenerife. That's the actual full name. Tish, it is 6 p.m, so it is the same time as London, as far as I know. I had my phone, when I first got here, it went on into the wrong time zone, which had never happened to me. So for one day I was at the wrong time, and me and my mum missed each other because I was telling her the wrong time. But anyway, it is 6 p.m. and I believe it is UK time, and it is about 33 degrees Celsius, so it's quite warm. Welcome, Margaret. And we are in the shade at the moment, so we're good. Towards the end of the tour though, just so you know, we'll have quite a bit of a walk in the sun. If for any reason you lost me completely, that would be my phone overheating. So don't panic, I've not been kidnapped or anything. It's just that my phone could go a bit crazy with the heat. Hi Nikki, welcome Diane, welcome everyone. And let's go. Let me show you where we are. We are at Calle Jesus Nazareno, so I'm guessing that's Jesus Christ. And number 37 here is a place that has quite a bit of dark history. That was the site of El Crimen del Siglo, the crime of the century. Let's start walking and I'll tell you, because I feel a bit observed here. So yeah, we had, apologies if you're not a fan of true crime, it's gonna be a quick story. After that, I promise we're going back to vacation mood. But yeah, this crime is it's the most shocking crime that I ever heard of in Spain at least. And probably one of the most shocking crimes I've ever heard of anyway. So in 1970, there was a young girl called Sabine. It's probably called Sabine. I don't know, she was German. I don't know how you pronounce it in German. And Sabine was working as a domestic, like a housekeeper for a doctor, a German doctor. Not that we had a lot of German people here, but you know, people like to stay with their communities, don't they? So she worked for the doctor. She had 2 sisters and a brother. And one day she's at work when 2 dirty gentlemen came in. They were full of black stained, brown, let's say, brown dirty stains that looked like dirt. And they went to see the doctor, and they said they were Sabine's dad and brother, and they asked the doctor if they could have a little chat with Sabine. And of course the doctor said yes, sure. And he was gonna go to give them some privacy. But before he left, he overheard the conversation. Those dirty gentlemen, they were telling Sabine, it was the hour of killing, it was the hour of killing. We've killed your mom and sisters. It is done. And Sabine hugged them and she said to them, I trust you, Daddy, I trust you've done the right thing. So of course the doctor that heard that, he was like, what? And he called the police. So those 2 dirty gentlemen were arrested, and it turned up it was not dirt, it was blood. They were full of blood. And they very quickly confessed. It turned up that the brother and the dad, they were originally from Germany. They were from near Hamburg. And they had, I've heard some green little parakeets. Did you hear the birds? I cannot see them, but I know they're up there in that tree somewhere. Hi, Ronelyn, and everyone that just joined. So yeah, what was I saying? Oh yes, so yeah, they very quickly confessed. It turned up that they had kind of escaped from Germany because they were part of a sect really. It was a religious group that was called, what was it called? The Lauber Society. It was a religious group that was, today we would definitely consider it a sect. And Daddy had been exiled from the group. They were basically, to cut the story short, they were convinced that the son, Frank, was the Messiah. They believed that a new prophet was coming back, and they believed their son, that was 16 at the time, his name was Frank, they believed he was the man. So, since he was a little boy, Frank was treated as God by his brother, his mother, and his sisters. So whatever Frank had to say, it was like a divine message. And, well, everyone that was not part of that cult, they considered them as, almost like sons of the devil. So as a teenage boy, Frank was not allowed to have any, let's say, love affairs with normal people, let's say normal. So they allowed him to basically experiment sexually with his mother and sisters. And if that was not bad enough, he believed that women were dirty. Guys, can you try to keep the chat active so I know you're still there? Because I think you're probably just fascinated by the story, but I don't have any. Thank you, Tish. Thank you very much. Because that's the only way I know that I still have a signal. So yeah, he was, not only was he sleeping with his family, but he had already told his mother and sister that one day he would kill them because they were dirty. And one day his mother, Dagmar, I think she was 41, the boy was 16, she looked at him, she was sat on his bed, and he did not like that look. He saw, according to what he said, he saw the look of the devil. And religion, yeah, that can do crazy things for sure. And he decided it was the hour of killing. So he attacked his mother and sisters. Luckily, Sabine was not there. She was working with the German doctor. But the two other sisters, and they were not defending wounds on themselves. They basically let themselves be killed because they believed it was the right thing. You know, when you grow up being told your brother is the Messiah, and his dad, not only did he watch, but he played the organ. So he got out his organ to play music, like dirty, horrible tunes, watching that horror. Now, I'll spare you the details because when I say horror, it's horror. Well, let me give you one detail. Their breasts were cut off, so were their genitalia. Not sure how that worked, but they were nailed on the walls when the police got there. So horrible, horrible crime scene. And that was at number 37, Calle Jesus Nazareto, which is quite ironic, really, because obviously Jesus was the Messiah himself. Anyway. So very quickly they got arrested. They had tried to escape the country. They had tried to run to the airport, but they had burned their passport. Some kind of a ritual, they believed they had to burn their passport, so they didn't go very far. And that's how they got arrested. If you are curious, there are photos of them on the internet, and even on the photographs you can see that they are insane. Their eyes are like massive. And they were tried, but they were judged unfit for a trial. So they were placed in a psychiatric institution in Madrid. And so a very sad story. And Sabine, she was asking to go into the asylum as well. What date? 1970, Linda. If anyone wanted to, I know sometimes after my tours, people like to do a bit more research. It's known as the Alexander family massacre. They were called the Alexander family. So the killer is Frank Alexander. And his dad is Edgar, I think. So yeah, Sabine, she believed she was also insane, and she had to go into the asylum, but they sent her to a convent instead. And guess what? It's not the end of the story. About 23 years later, both of the boys escaped. So they are now, we don't know where they are. They could be still alive. They are now somewhere. They've managed to get out of the institution together, and they've never been seen again. So they could be anywhere at large. So really shocking murder. It's been dubbed by the press the crime of the century. It is certainly the worst murder we've had. Well, no, actually, there's one terrible one I'll tell you about tomorrow in Los Cristianos, but it's one of the worst murders we've had in the Canary Islands, definitely. Anyway, let's move on to something a little bit more uplifting, let's say, theatre. So we've got a lovely theatre mask here. So the building behind it is a theatre. So that's why we've got some interesting art here. I think it's called the Guimera Theatre, but I love the art. So it's representing a theatre mask. Anyway, let me tell you a bit more about where we are. So we are now, I think this area is called Nuria. It's the old town. Santa Cruz, it's Santa Cruz, but they often skip the Z when they speak here. They often, when they say gracias, they actually say gracia. They often skip the end of the words. So Santa Cruz did not really have the best reputation. I'm showing you the nice part here, but really, once you start to get out of town, you see a lot of, it's a big port, and you see a lot of, there's a petrol refinery as well, so you see those big tanks that say BP or, so the city center has been a little bit rejuvenated into the 21st century, really, but it didn't have the reputation to be the best spot for tourism. I have myself only spent a few hours in here. It's my third time in Tenerife. As some of you might know, my mother has a flat. She lives part of the year on the island. But I've not spent much time in Santa Cruz myself because it's not necessarily the nicest part, but it's full of history. And so we are in the north of the island. Usually in the north, the weather is a bit colder because of the mountain and the Teide volcano that kind of attracts the rain or the clouds at least. The tourist information keeps it quiet and murder-free. Well, Suzanne, you know what? I think it's extremely rare. And the one I'll tell you tomorrow in Los Cristianos, there were people that were insane as well. The gentleman tomorrow, it's a crazy case, but they are very rare. It is a safe place. I have to look very deep to find those cases. And usually it's much colder here than it is in the south. So that's why when you go to the south of the island, it's full of resorts. The south has literally been built for tourism. The north is, where Canarians really live, really. And look how lovely this is. So this is the old part of town. And I'll show you a little church here, the Church of the Conception. I think it's not the original, but this is probably one of the oldest church in town. You visited and you're still in one piece? Yes. It's a top tourist destination really for British people. If you want fish and chips and beans on toast here, you should be able to find it. Well, not here in Santa Cruz, but in the south, yes. So beautiful church over here. And let's not forget that Tenerife is a volcanic island. So it was literally born with a volcano, popping its lava out. It's actually also connected to the myth of the Atlantis, because it seemed to come out of nowhere. Whereabout in Tenerife were you, Susan? And if you look at the stone, see this black stone? This is volcanic rock, so that's why it's so black. It's basically lava. They do a lot of things with volcanic rocks. If you go to a market, for example, you can buy a lot of jewelry that are made with lava. Let me show you the top again. So Santa Cruz, it's named Santa Cruz after the the conquistador Alfonso Fernandez de Lugo, because when he came here, oh, there's a prayer. When he came here, he raised a cross, officially making the country Catholic. So it's named after his cross. But there are many Santa Cruz, and there's a Santa Cruz in Las Palmas as well. So they that's why it's actually called Santa Cruz de Santiago de Tenerife. Very few people know, but yeah. Anyway, so the conquistador, when they came here, oh, it's open. Should we? No, I'm gonna be told off. When they came here, they had to give it a fight. You know, the conquest of Tenerife literally took 90 years. They started trying in I think it's 1402 when they started, and they finally made it in 1496 because we had people here. We had people called the Guanches. And actually, this museum, I've not had time to go, but I think they've got a lot of material about the Guanches. They were the First Nations of the island. We don't really know for sure where they came from. We believe they've arrived in 500 BC. And when the Spanish conquistadors arrived, the Guanches, they looked white, a lot of blonde people, a lot of tattoos. They did not have metal, so no armors or anything. So you'd think it was going to be easy to be victorious against them, but no, those guys were ready to fight. And actually, Fernandez de Lugo, he had to give up first, and he did not want to be defeated. So he took a loan. He gave his 2 sons to his creditors to make sure he was going to give back the money, to come back with a bit more of an army and finally defeat the Guanches. The Guanches, they were living in caves or wooden habitations. Let me show you. This is a bit of a canal for the rainwater to come down. And they were not able to sail. They had no boats. And even according to the chronicles of the conquistadors at the time, they did not appear to know how to sail, which is interesting because then we're like, how did they get there? There are many different theories on how they might have got there originally. One is that they might have been kind of slaves from the Roman Empire, because we have a plant here that does some purple dye. And you might know purple has always been an expensive color. You know, it was the colors of the kings or the emperor. So the Romans might have sent some slaves to go and collect the dye. We believe they come from the Berbers. So the Berbers, if you don't know, they were those people living in the area of the Maghreb today before the Arab conquest. So they were polytheists. They were not Muslims yet. And the thing is, if they had got there alone, how could they know how to sail a boat and then lose that ability? That's just very odd. So they might have been sent here as prisoners, or they might have been just, you know, some kind of lower class citizen to be sent here, or maybe punished. Maybe they offended Rome, or who knows. We just don't know for sure. What we do know is that they had an interesting society, and they had mummies. Let me try, I shouldn't go. They called them the Rajos. It's spelled with a X, Rajos, X-A-X-O. So they were the local mummies. And although it does look like they might have been somehow inspired by the Egyptian one, the Berbers would have been like the neighbors of Egypt anyway. They were actually a very different, I shouldn't go, no, I'm not going. A very different technique. Those mummies were not eviscerated. So no, Suzanne, as far as I know, no boats at all. Let me try. No, I'll wait. So yeah, they were those mummies. So you had ladies doing the mummies for the ladies and men doing mummies for the men. They did not remove the guts like the Egyptian used to do. They used to put, sorry for the details, but they used to put volcanic rocks into the anuses of the deceased, and then they would coat them in animal, if they're going, I'm going, in animal fat. And then they were covered into volcanic dust and rocks and herbs. And then, you love the details, good. And then they were dried out in the sun. Those mummies were then placed into caves. We found quite a few, but according to a manuscript from the 18th century, somewhere in Tenerife, we don't know where, there's a cave of 100 mummies. We don't know, like the name was not said on the manuscript, and we just don't know where. So one day we might still find it. We don't know why that cave has not been discovered. Maybe some rocks falling or some lava. The volcano is still alive. You know, it could. So who knows? So that's. They were definitely a very interesting population. Unfortunately, they have been. Well, in a way, we could say it was a genocide. You know, the Spanish conquistadors really were almost practicing on what they later did in Latin America. You know, they brought in their own diseases, like maybe smallpox or whatever it was. So a lot of those men died. Some of them were taken as slaves or soldiers as well. The ladies were not necessarily all killed, but they were married. There was a princess, actually a Princess Dacia. She was married to one of the conquistadors. The conquistadors, they didn't have many women with them, so they had to marry the locals. So the population still lives in a way in some of the people that are around today, but there's no complete survival, let's say. They're not, you can never meet anyone today that tells you, oh, I'm a Guanche. The tram is quite new, I think. Cool. And so yeah, very, very interesting civilization. And, you know, those men were strong and ready to fight, you know, to be able to resist the Spanish for that long. Tenerife was a chief. He was a local chief, and he had, well, in a way, he had made a mistake. It's that after he passed, his kingdom, I don't know if we can call it a kingdom, but his territory was divided between his sons. So that's why the Guanches were not that well organized when the Spanish arrived, because they were divided into little kingdoms. And the Guanches, by the way, they are the inhabitants of Tenerife. On the other Canary Islands, you had some local people as well. Sometimes people call all of them the Guanches, but really, the Guanches, it's the one from Tenerife. Right, we're gonna have to cross again, and I know this one takes forever because I walked that route earlier. So let's press the button. I think it's a little bit, it's not as hot as it was an hour ago, so we might be good with the phone. I don't think it's gonna overheat. We'll see, but I think we might be good. Leaving the place to the sun never worked well, yes. Right, let's see. So you can already see it's not as pretty anymore. You can see that it's a harbor, you know, a lot of goods coming in. And well, it's such an amazing port that quite a few people try to take it. And you might know one of those guys. He actually left a limb here. Who's the most famous amputee of all times? Let's see if you can guess. Yes, there we go. Who's the most famous amputee? Across the globe, I would say. Long John Silver. I didn't think about him. No, maybe the second most famous amputee then. We did have quite a few pirates. I think I probably got overly excited with my amputee. I didn't realize there were so many more. No, it's a British one. But yeah, we also did have quite a few pirates. That's why you see a lot of little forts around the island. Well, the Spanish were known to have a lot of gold, you know, especially after, because we are on the way to America. I know it's not that obvious, but at the time when sailing took so long, that would be the Captain Hook. No, another one. That would be the port where people would have to stop. Even Christopher Columbus, you know, they'll stop on their way to the Caribbean. And still today, you have a lot of people from exactly, well done, Dr. Benita. Yeah, you still have today in Uruguay, in Venezuela, there's a big community of people that came from the Canary Islands. So yeah, the Admiral Nelson, it was his first defeat really. 1797, I think it was. He did his right arm. He got hit as he was trying to take the port of Santa Cruz, and his arm was then amputated and it was dropped in the sea. Yeah, and then he believed his career was ruined, but then of course he went to have those victories that he had. I know when you see, for example, when you see the statue in London on Trafalgar Square, you don't really see that he's missing an arm, because the position of the jacket or the sleeve, it looks like his hand is on his chest, but they've actually just put it there to, it's not hidden, you can see he's missing it, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, his arm is somewhere here in the sea. And I read somewhere, I don't know whether that's true, but they said that after the defeat, the Spanish military commander here, they sent a big batch of Canarian wine to Britain, to the Admiral. The Canary Islands used to be, Tenerife at least, used to be very famous for its wine. Not so much anymore, but at the time of Shakespeare's, for example, in Shakespeare's play, apparently there's quite a few mentions of the Tenerife wines. I did try banana wine a few days ago. I filmed it for a video. I'll do a little video. So wine made with bananas, interesting. And oh no, they didn't send the box with an arm, no. And they said that apparently, as a reply, the Admiral sent a case of beer and British cheese. But I don't know if that's true, because I've only read that in one book, so I don't know. Anyway, you can already probably see the beautiful opera, how do you call it, concert hall. So that's 2013, I think. So beautiful building. We'll go around because the view is better from the other side. And talking about, disasters really, the airport here in Santa Cruz is also famous for a horrible aviation disaster in, I think it's 77. The airport has now changed its name. Now it's called Tenerife Norte. But in the 70s it was called Los Rodeos. And some of you might have heard of that disaster, because it's literally the worst aviation disaster in history. What happened is you had a flight, Pan American Airlines, going from Los Angeles. They were not coming here. They were going to Gran Canaria. And in Gran Canaria, there was a bomb at the airport. And then there's a series of mini errors that went as just too many errors in a row that led to a horrible disaster. What happened first is, first the Pan American airline was a bit late, and then there was that bomb in Gran Canaria, but the radio in Gran Canaria, instead of saying bomb, they said bombs with a S. So people expected a second bomb somewhere, so they closed the airport. So lots of flights were diverted to come into Tenerife. Los Rodeos airport was very small. It was literally one runway, and it had the reputation to be quite dangerous. A couple of years earlier, we already had a disaster with 165 deaths. And because of the position of the volcano, it does get a bit foggy there, and they had only one runway at the time. And then there's another aircraft, KLM, so Dutch. They arrived there as well. They were also going to Gran Canaria, so they had to wait for hours. And the Dutch company had the reputation, it was their slogan, to always be on time. Well, then the pilot of the KLM aircraft decided to refill their gas tanks because they were gonna be stuck there anyway. Hello. And that took another half an hour, and then Gran Canaria, they decided to reopen the airport, but then the KLM flight was in the middle of the runway, so no one could go. And then when suddenly the KLM flight was ready to go, they were very impatient. You'd have to remember that in the 70s, you could smoke on an aircraft, I think. The air hostess, they were meant to be pretty, you know, they were like sexy girls. But in terms of safety, we were not exactly like we are today. And the KLM pilot was really impatient. He wanted to go, but the Pan American was still on the runway because they were waiting to find the exit. And basically, they could only see a few hundred yards in front of them because of the fog. Let me go. I shouldn't do this, otherwise it's gonna take forever. And then the American pilot was just going straight up the runway to find an exit to go on the side, and they've missed their exit. So they were on the runway for a few seconds longer than they should have, and they were on the same radio station, the two aircraft. And the control tower, at the time, it was not internationalized. At the time, in the United States, you were not allowed to say okay and that's it, you know, you'd have to repeat the full sentence. But that was not quite international yet, so there were some miscommunication with the control tower. And basically the KLM pilot said, oh, I'm going to take off, or I'm at takeoff, which doesn't mean anything. Are you at takeoff? Are you taking off? The tower said okay, and then Pan American said, no, hold on, I'm still on the runway. But that message got mixed with the other one, and the KLM pilot went, you know, straight hundreds of miles. You know, I think they start at 150 miles an hour. And suddenly, well, when the KLM pilot spotted the other aircraft, all they could try to do was to take off, to go over the other aircraft. But because they had just refueled their tank, they were much heavier. So they needed a longer distance to take off. So they did lift up a little bit on top of the American Airlines, but that wasn't good enough. Everyone in the KLM flight died. We're talking, I think it's 500 deaths on the Dutch flight, and there's a few survivors, 61 survivors in the American Airlines. But the thing is, we think we have a panic mode. We think we can do, what is it called, fight or flight. Actually, most of us in such situation, we freeze. We panic and we freeze. So a lot of people did not get off of the aircraft on time. A lot of people were already dead, but there's a few survivors that have been interviewed, and there's a full book about the disaster that's quite interesting. Like in terms of human behaviors and what we do, like apparently some people were not able to open their seatbelt. They were just frozen. And you know, before takeoff, when they tell you to put the bags under your seat, to have the little table up, that's because in case of such emergency, people have to be able to exit, you know, because if you're tripping on a bag, or if So yeah, anyway, worst disaster of aviation history right here in Santa Cruz. I've never actually flown through this airport. I usually fly to the south. I had a flight to come here, but that was March 2020, so that got cancelled. Anyway, this is the beautiful Auditorio building. And let me show you, I hope it's gonna be more visible. When I came earlier, the sun was so bright, we couldn't see anything. But we've got a little jetty here with rocks, and people have painted on the rocks icons of the music industry. So let me show you, I've seen the Bee Gees, I've seen Elvis, but depending on the light, I don't know how visible it's gonna be. Right, let's see. I don't know if you can see a few already. Let me climb on here. Oh, there is Elton. Can you see Elton? I can try to zoom in. Let me see. There are some that I don't recognize. They probably are Spanish artists. Oh, Schubert is there as well. Let me try to find the Bee Gees. Where were they? Carlos Santana. Oh, Sting. Who's that? Is that Freddie Mercury? No. I don't see the Bee Gees anymore. Anyway, it's kind of cool. Oh, I've closed the chat to zoom in and I forgot to reopen it. John Fogerty. Oh, on a waterfall. Who knew? I didn't. So yeah, that's quite... yeah, there's quite a few I don't... Oh, Michael. They didn't even need to put the last name. Right. Sorry. Thank you. Right, we've got some more here. Beethoven. John Navarre. I don't know who is John Navarre. Bola de Nieve. I don't know where they are. Anyway, it's quite cool. I suppose you could go and walk on the jetty, but it might be a little bit... oh, there's a fisherman there. Right, let me show you the building. I'll go down to the other side so you've got an amazing angle. Let me see if I'm completely zoomed out. Hold on. No, there we go. He looks like a zombie. Okay, let me see. Up. Apologies if I've missed anything in the chat. We've got those funny steps here. They're like 1 every 2 meters. So when it's not standard, I need to check where I'm walking. There we go. So yeah, beautiful building. And I'm glad I've made it all the way till here, because that's the building I've used on the YouTube thumbnail. So if my phone had given up before that, that would have been a shame. Nice way to stop graffiti, yeah. I don't know if it's one single artist that did them all, or if anyone can have a go and paint their favorite singer. Well, I suppose they cannot stop you if you want to come onto your favorite artist. There we go. So interesting view from here. And we've got a little fort as well. Let me show you down the other side. That's quite cool. The old and the new together. You've got the very new opera house and an old fort from the 1600s. And there's an amazing aquatic park there as well with those little, because we don't have many beautiful beaches right here in town. There's one, quite a good one in St. Andres, so that's 15 minutes from here. And you know, when you see those golden sand beaches in Tenerife, it's fake. It's sand from the Sahara. So they brought it here. Usually the sand here is black because it's a volcanic island, so it's volcanic rocks. So we've got a lot of beautiful black beaches. The goldy, sandy ones are usually imported sand. Oh, you love the building. Right, let me see. I'll see if I can show you a little view of the pool. I've not taken the easiest way. Hold on, up here. I'll try to give you a view, but I know, you know, people don't really, well, you know, it's not great to be filming swimming pools, you know, because people are a bit paranoid that you want to see people in their swimmer. Oh, it's closed anyway, so let me show you. We'll go and finish up there. This way I can climb and show you the pool. So it's a lovely area, but it's a bit of a walk from the city center, really. As you might have noticed, we've been walking for a while, but I'm glad my phone has survived. It's not 33 degrees anymore. It's gone down a bit. I think we probably maybe 30, but I don't think we are over 30 anymore. All right, let me climb up. There we go. So tomorrow I'll show you a completely different side of the island. It's not actually my favorite side, but tomorrow we'll go down to let's say the British tourism heaven. And actually you've got a lot of those type of swimming pools elsewhere as well. But this is quite cool, and it's not too expensive. I think it's €4 for a day to come into the pool, so it's quite nice. If you did come to visit Tenerife, renting a car is the way to go, really, unless you're worried about driving on this side of the road. But the cars are not too expensive here. If you have when you have a good deal, it's about €80 a week. So really, compared to most countries in Europe, it's actually much cheaper. You've never seen islands in a pool before? Oh, I have. I used to work as a photographer in aquatic parks when I was young. So and they have a massive one here. I think it's meant to be the best one in Europe. It's called Siem Park. I've not been because I personally try to avoid chlorine, but at least when I can, you know, when I'm on an island, I prefer to go into the sea. But yeah, it's if you are into aquatic parks and swimming pools and those kind of swimming rides, you've got the best one in Europe, in the south of the island. Susanne, I have, not in this trip, because this trip I'm with my mother and she's got minor mobility issues. And you know what, if you happen to have mobility issues, Los Cristianos, where I'm taking you tomorrow, it's the most mobility friendly. Can we say that? The most. It doesn't make any sense. The most mobility. Oh, anyway, if you are in a wheelchair, it's the easiest destination to come on the beach and everything. Mobility friendly. Yeah, I think I can say that. Mobility issue friendly. Oh, because if you are on they used to actually rent those mobility scooters in Los Cristianos, but the thing is, it was too much. Everyone would do it as an attraction. You know, they'll come to Tenerife, they'll rent a mobility scooter, and you couldn't even walk on the beach area because there were too many of them. So nowadays, you have to have some kind of disability or injury to be able to run them. Yes, exactly, accessible friendly. It's one of the most accessible locations in Europe. So everywhere you go in Los Cristianos, you've got those ramps. When you go to the main beaches, you've got those, you know, those chairs to take you into the water. So if you happen to be on a wheelchair, it's one of the best beachy destinations in Europe. It's one of the reasons why my mother bought here originally. At the time, she was convinced that she would end up in a wheelchair. It's much better now. It's no longer the case, but yeah. Anyway, guys, it's gonna be the end of the tour. Do let me know if you have any questions before we go. I'm not sure what HV is. And hopefully you can make it tomorrow. So tomorrow, Los Cristianos. So we're still on Tenerife Island. We are in the south. So it's an area I know a little bit better than here because that's where my mother is. Thanks, Claire. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Linda. Thanks anyone that left me a little tip as well. I know if they're on Buy Me a Coffee or PayPal, I don't see them live in the chat, but you very, very much appreciated. That's what keeps us going. You know, we really rely on your tips to keep doing those tours. Thanks, Leslie. Thanks, Sue. And if you've enjoyed it as well, make sure you give a little thumbs up to the video, so this way more people might discover it in the future. And hopefully, oh, Herbivore, I didn't see you there. Nice to have seen you. Welcome. Cool. Thank you, Herbivore. Thank you, Roberta. Thank you, Ronelyn. Cool. I'm gonna let you go. Have a good evening, a good morning, whatever time it is for you, wherever you are in the world. And hopefully I'll see some of you tomorrow. Thanks, Anna. Thanks, Nikki. Bye-bye.